Okay, guys, so we're going to go over the story of ANIAH Blanchard, the young 19-year-old girl that's out of Auburn, Alabama. Well, it's pretty much the outskirts of Birmingham. And she is the daughter of Angela, at the time Blanchard, and Elijah Blanchard. Together, that couple had 2 children. ANIAH here on the left and Elijah on the right, and they were only 17 months apart. Angela said that the 2 were very close, like they were twins. But their marriage didn't last, and they ended up splitting apart. After a few years passed, Angela Blanchard said that she met a guy of her dreams, Walt Harris. Walt had an athletic ambition and wanted to play for the NBA. He was following the footsteps of his favorite player, Kobe Bryant. Walt actually played on the Homewood Patriots basketball team, but later took his basketball talents to Jacksonville State University. And according to an article, it was during that time, his time with the Gamecocks, that he met Angela Haley, who was to become his wife. Angela was driving on the JSU campus when she stopped at a traffic light and glanced over to her left to find Walt in the passenger seat of a neighboring car. Angela said, "Our eyes met," she recalls, "and I felt a connection." The chance encounter soon yielded a conversation, and the pair realized they had something in common. She lived in his hometown. Quote, "I moved to Homewood because I always heard Homewood had good schools. I've always had it in my head that I was going to live in Homewood." Angela had 2 children, Elijah and ANIAH, from a previous marriage. So when the pair met, Walt instantly became a dad, Angela says. Basically, that's what he wanted. He loved them both from day one. The couple now have 4 children together. They were married in 2010. ANIAH's brother, the 20-year-old Auburn engineer and sophomore, Elijah. 19-year-old ANIAH, which was a Southern Union freshman. A 13-year-old and a 6-year-old. ANIAH Blanchard grew up playing softball in the high school in that small town. And according to her family, she was one of the most kind, loving children you could ever meet. And according to her best friend, that she was the type of girl that when she walked down the hallway in the high school, the whole hallway lit up.
Her smile was just infectious. You walk down the hall at Homewood High School, two years ago when she graduated, and basically that whole hall lit up.
Angela Harris worked 3 jobs at times in order to support Walt in his dreams of becoming a UFC fighter. And he would be the one that would ultimately raise their children along with Elijah Blanchard. She would kind of bounce back and forth. On October 23rd, ANIAH Blanchard was hanging out with her family. And later on that evening, she needed to take her brother back home. ANIAH told her parents that she felt pretty tired that night, and they kind of suggested to let her brother drive if she got too tired. Now remember, ANIAH been going to school in the area about 10 miles away from where Cupcake was abducted. And people have the concerns, the fact that they're riddled with so much harsh crime. The big city crime is now seeping into the smaller towns where you thought you were safe. Continuing with the story, on October 23rd, ANIAH Blanchard drops her brother off at his apartments approximately around 11 p.m. This is in Montgomery. Also, what we're hearing is there's a rumor that she might have told her brother that she was going out, but this isn't confirmed. Also, a few rumors say that she hung out at a couple of bars before going home. These bars are, the name of them are Sky Bar Cafe and Southeastern Bar, both on Magnolia Avenue in Auburn. But strangely, her debit card was used at 11:30. And this is where the parents are kind of concerned about whether or not she was going out that night, because it's approximately 30 minutes later after she drops off her brother. She's at a convenience store and she's picking up a bag of chips. And they're kind of concerned as to why, if she was going out, would she get chips? Because usually that's something she would take home and kind of munch on at home. That it is something she would not do before going out on a date. So ANIAH walks into the gas station store, buys a bag of chips, pays for the chips, and while she was at the store, there was another man there watching her every move. ANIAH exits the store, walks to her car. So the last person that she supposedly communicated with was with her roommate via Snapchat. She tells her friend through Snapchat that she's going out with a guy named Eric that she met on a dating app. But ANIAH never comes back home after this night. Family and friends concerned know this is not like her, end up calling the police and reporting her missing. However, ANIAH Blanchard's car was seen approximately around 12:30 a.m. in the area of South College Street and Interstate 85 in Auburn. And so this isn't really too far from those bars that have been mentioned. Says this is approximately about an hour after the roommate last heard from her. Police put out ANIAH Blanchard's picture and information, asking if anybody has seen her or her vehicle. And media quickly used the name of Walt Harris as a way to push the story. Walt Harris is a UFC fighter ranked number 10. Police also show the public what kind of car that ANIAH was driving, which was a Honda CR-V. And it wasn't too long that the police did receive a tip saying that they might have located ANIAH Blanchard's car at the 6100 block of Boardwalk Boulevard. So when police arrived 50 miles away from where ANIAH Blanchard lives at an apartment complex, they noticed that there is significant damage, as if her car had been in a wreck. Police also noticed that the car was backed into a parking spot as if someone was trying to obstruct the tag number. And police now believe, once they searched that car, that there might have been foul play involved with ANIAH Blanchard's disappearance. So the investigators immediately put out a description of what ANIAH Blanchard looks like. ANIAH Blanchard, a light-complected black female with brown eyes, brown hair, 5'6", and weighs approximately 125 pounds. Is a student at a Southern Union State Community College in Wadley. ANIAH last communicated with a friend on Wednesday, October 23rd, just before midnight. The young woman, last seen wearing a black dress, tan duck boots, and black stockings, has been reported missing. I never really understood when we watched this why they said she wore a black dress, because she was not wearing a black dress. Police further investigated the vehicle that they found, and in the passenger side found a lot of residue that would kind of point toward an injury that was life-threatening. ANIAH Blanchard's car was towed and taken for forensic observation, but police were also putting it out there that they wanted anybody with any tips on who might have seen that vehicle that night, maybe seen even ANIAH Blanchard. And if they did, to please contact Crime Stoppers or the police. And for a period of time, everything was just absolutely silent. So this was very scary for the family of ANIAH Blanchard as well as the public. And it wasn't long before the nation was seeing the face of ANIAH Blanchard. Now remember that Cupcake story had just come out as well a few weeks prior to ANIAH's disappearance. So this is all kind of the same area that all this kind of horrific crime is growing from. A lot of evil in that area. So if you're not familiar with this case, Cupcake is a little toddler that was at a birthday party, an adult birthday party, playing outside alone with another toddler. Shocking. On surveillance camera, you could see two toddler children being led off and only one of them returned. This is only a few miles away from where this is happening with ANIAH Blanchard, and people were very, very concerned about the fact that the organized crime in that area was getting very brave. They are basically attacking people in public in broad daylight. So this community was actually just recovering from that case. Now this area does have the support of what their leaders, like the governor and the mayor, the police chief, all of these guys are pretty supportive on these cases. However, there's an awful lot of this stuff, and like people like Yazid, they seem kind of confident that they can get away with this stuff. So it makes you wonder, is there more going on in that area with the leaders than you think? Everybody knows that these politicians and stuff do not make their money off their yearly salary. They make their money by other means, and you might want to look into that. The fact that there are so many of these crimes there, and the fact that they're so open, is kind of makes you wonder what's really happening. And interestingly, one of the things that Angela said was a reason for her moving to Homewood was there was supposed to be good schools and a good community. Okay, so let's briefly go over this once more. So we know that ANIAH Blanchard used her card at 11:30, October 23rd, that evening, and authorities say her phone went dark at 11:57 p.m. Wednesday evening. Her Life 360 app was also disabled Wednesday. According to Auburn Police Chief Paul Register, on Friday, Blanchard's vehicle was seen in the early morning hours of Thursday around 12:30 a.m. and that was in the area of South College Street and Interstate 85 in Auburn. And the car has significant damage done to it as if she was in a wreck. They find evidence that somebody was wounded in that car pretty badly. Now, they are saying that ANIAH Blanchard was the type to be very responsible. In fact, she had worked a job when she was 16. First, on the books job, working shifts at a urban cookhouse, all the way up until she went to college or left for college. So, on the morning of October 24th, she never showed up to pick up the children that she was babysitting. It was a huge red flag. In fact, it was a completely out of character for her. And approximately 2 weeks after ANIAH was reported missing, police released a pair of grainy photographs of a man seen the same night at the same gas station, convenience store, where ANIAH was last spotted. So immediately, police got this footage out to media, and for the first time, the public really seen the face of this guy that they were looking for. And not only that, shortly after his face was shown to public, police had actually caught him in another state, Florida, just inside Florida state line. In fact, at the Pine Forest exit, which was 10, where they ended up chasing him into some woods. And at that time, we didn't hear about other witnesses. But we did see that he was arrested. He was taken to the hospital and then later expedited back to Alabama. So approximately around November 7th, there was a lot going on that we didn't know about. And according to the probable cause affidavit, a witness actually come forward and told police they saw Yazid force Blanchard into her car and then drive away from that gas station. Yazid matched the witness description, police said, and on November 7th, officers identified him as the man seen in the security footage inside the Chevron. So ultimately, that witness was the number one reason that the U.S. Marshals were able to arrest him in Escambia County, Florida. November 7th had a lot more going on that we didn't know about at the time, and that really they were zeroing in on two other men, and they in a connection to the disappearance of ANIAH at that time. And they also discovered that one of them, which was an older man, was lying to police, trying to cover up the fact that Yazid had actually been part of the disappearance of ANIAH. I'm having trouble getting it out today. His name was David Lee Johnson Jr., 63 years old. And they're saying in a lot of articles that he was the one that allegedly misled police about his son's role, which is Johnson Jr., well, it'd be Johnson the third, sorry guys, that he was involved with driving Yazid to Florida in the days after, her disappearance at that time. And later on we find out that his son has not been charged with a crime. And so many people are suspecting that he made a plea deal. However, guys, David Jr. was arrested and later released on bond. So the other suspect, Antoine Fisher, 35, allegedly threw out evidence and gave Yazid a ride after Blanchard's death. And this is where they're saying that Yazid played a single role in ANIAH Blanchard's disappearance. But, a lot of us don't believe this is true. We must not forget that it's not been long that Fisher has been out of jail himself, or prison, for a murder charge. He only spent 1 year, 11 months, and 28 days, I believe, I'm memorizing this, guys, behind bars on a murder charge, guys. Yazid, the same thing. He also had been dealing with a recent charge of kidnapping, attempted murder, and a few other things. And you can check out my older videos to find out more details on that. And so why are these men out? That's the big question. Well, let's go ahead and continue with this timeline. So Yazid was arrested. Antoine Fisher was arrested, and so was Johnson. The thing about Antoine is he was arrested by Auburn police for kidnapping. And we all know that police have to have something to back that up. So, he probably he was more involved with this than they're saying. So, is there a plea deal in the works? Now, Antoine Fisher also has a very dirty background, like I mentioned earlier, so make sure you check out my older videos to get more details. And the third suspect was Johnson, which is over here all the way to the right, the 63-year-old. And we're still waiting to see what's going on with him. We feel like there's some charges being kind of swapped around there. And of course, his son is the one that gave Yazid the ride to Florida. And we're waiting to hear more on that as well, but we're not going to hear a lot until really trial gets started, most likely. Now, I do want to refer you guys to the interview with ANIAH Blanchard's mother and stepfather, Walt Harris, where they kind of talk about the text messages that she sent that night that she disappeared. You can see where Mom speculates that most likely these texts were not coming from her daughter. That's what she believes.
What message that her roommate was Snapchatting her, where are you? Are you close to home? And she says yes. And she says, who are you with? And she says a certain male's name. And she says, well, our roommate said, I wish you would have let me know, and I waited up on you. I love you. I'm going to sleep. I love you. And it was ANIAH, or their message back was, I'm sorry, and I love you too.
Let's clarify kind of what
pure speculation.
I want to clarify, Angela.
The pain on this mother's face is real. And she's telling you, this is the text message we're getting. And this is where she starts to describe a little bit more.
And what you're kind of saying there, speculating that, possibly somebody else, somebody who may have taken her, if that's what happened, may have been messaging back. Is that what you're saying, possibly, that you're alluding to?
Yeah.
It's just weird.
And for some reason, Walt breaks in and interrupts her, and I'm not sure as to why, but this is what he says.
That you go from what we know when she left us. When I last saw her and her brother, she told me verbatim that she was tired and, that she needed to get back because she was tired. And I had suggested to her that she let her brother drive. She was like, no, I'm fine. I have a Mountain Dew in the car, and I'll just drink that. And I said, okay, well, if you get tired, let your brother drive. He said, okay, I can do it. She said, okay, he could. So they left. And for her to be going to meet somebody on, her own after that fact, I just don't think that, knowing ANIAH like I know her, that's not, something she would have done.
So maybe the fact that she was so tired contributed to the fact that she was not aware of what was going on around her. It's sad that she was that tired and having to drive. Poor child. So the interview continues, and they kind of talk about what exactly happened in between that time with her and her brother where she drops him off. But we really don't get anything that's really reassuring as to what happened.
So from what y'all understand, you said they went together. Did they separate once they got to the Auburn area? And I know Angela had said, your son kind of encouraged her, you're tired, you need to go on home. Is that the point they separated?
Yeah, she dropped him off at home, and she headed home. And the store that they released the footage of her in is literally like right past her house. So she wanted, obviously, a bag of chips to go home. Like, you're not going out. You're not in that mind frame of going out if you're buying a bag of chips. We know her cell phone battery was low. She was standing right next to a case of chargers, and she could have bought a charger if she was planning to go do something. So there's just a lot of things that don't add up for us as parents, and we just want to know.
I've been wondering where this information's coming from, where they say her brother mentioned that she mentioned to him, that she wanted to go out. So we haven't really got information on where that is coming from. But we did eventually get a name of the guy that she said she was going out with, which was Eric. That was texted to her roommate. That's what we're hearing. And of course, all of this can change as time goes on and we start getting official documents and stuff like that. So the affidavits, once we can get our hands on those, will make a huge difference on what we see happening with this case. Anyways, moving on December 4th, which was a Wednesday, Yazid did go to court. And what we're hearing is he had an outburst telling the judge, quote, "You'll have no video, no audio of me shooting anyone," end quote. So, like one of my comments mentioned on one of my other videos on this, they said, why is he saying I didn't do it versus y'all just don't have video or audio of me doing it? He was there facing capital murder charges. and prosecutors said that they were pursuing the death penalty. We learned as well that officials said there was a new witness who saw Yazzie with the gun tucked into his shorts while in possession of Blanchard's car. This unnamed witness also says that Yazzie admitted to him that he had shot the girl, and the girl had went for the gun before, he took her life. ANIAH was found November 25th, and a lot of people believe it's due to this witness. It seems prosecutors have enough witnesses to make sure that they do see justice in this case, and thank God for that. It's very alarming to know that we had this guy out on the streets. He shouldn't have been out there in the first place, and this is why I am making as many videos as I am on ANIAH Blanchard. I want people to be aware that we have these kind of guys around your children and your family, friends, every single day. And it is completely unfair to those of us that are out there being productive in our community. So one thing we did notice with Yazzie was he was saying that he was getting death threats behind bars. And he was trying to see if he could get back to Montgomery. So Montgomery is where he's been getting away with quite a bit of, very evil crimes. And so this is a concern to the community. People want to know what is going on with that. And like I've mentioned before, if I was her parents, I would be looking at the very leaders that seem to be helping me and see what their role is in this these type of guys being out on the streets. I would also consider suing. We've got to start doing something, and hopefully these guys are able to find more answers than they're looking for. As parents, we deserve better than we're receiving. We should be safe, and we should feel safe for our children, especially within our own community. You shouldn't have to worry about going to a store to get a bag of chips and being abducted in public. That's ridiculous. I mean, we have a lot invested in our children from the day that they're born, not just financially, but emotionally. And our heart has driven every bit of it. It is not easy being a parent. Our children get sick, and we spend hours and years taking care of our children. We invest in our children for them to have great futures. We do not put all this time and effort into our children for something like this to just take it away in a matter of an hour. And we're going to have to start looking out for each other, and I hope that we do. Don't be afraid, like this witness was, to come forward if you see something. Don't worry what other people think or say. Do what your heart tells you to do. I just can't imagine the fear that this girl went through, but we do know that she did try to put up a fight. And I do believe there was more than one person involved, because there's no way that one man could have handled keeping a girl that wants to fight for her life inside that car. I'm telling you guys, this case has gotten to me, and I know it has to many of you as well. But I'm hitting my limit here, guys. I apologize, and I might have repeated a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything, and I kind of did this on the go. So at this point, I want to thank every one of you for supporting this channel. Without you, it wouldn't be doing anything at all. I mean, we wouldn't get any of these faces out whatsoever, and a lot of you have shared on group sites. You've really gone out of the way to help find these girls or to get their story out. I love you guys very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you guys soon.